I think we're live right now. Hey, wait. बैकग्राउंड नॉइज आ रहा है क्या? एक मिनट. मेरा वॉइस तो आ रहा है बट ना मेरा बैकग्राउंड नॉइज क्यों नहीं आ रहा? नहीं मैं कुछ तो बोल. Active, all things are active, but why it's not working? Then what are you doing? Code today. Today I'm going to today I'm going to code I slash O or OOP, like object oriented programming. Something is happening with my right now, like something happening with my audio. I don't know what is happening with this. Just give me a sec to like do this right. Go each other. Oh, remain hide nothing required. It's right. Go each other. All the best. Thank you for that. Ashwin Kumar, thank you for that, man. But wait a second. What the fuck happened? My desktop audio is not coming out. Uh, Enable on volume. Up the volume. I don't know what is happening. Hide. Nothing comes in. Is my desktop audio is coming? I'm playing a song on my background. Yes. Today I'm going to learn. Today I'm going to learn, by the way, this thing. What is that called? Okay. Now I'm going to put this headphone. Output, not output. Just set as default input on info. Today I'm going to learn OBBO, I mean O double OOP, which is called as. Is my background noise is coming? Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is happening with my background noise. Close this. Can you guys give me a few seconds to correct this my background noise? Uh, Advanced, what is this? No, background noise, nothing. Microphone, yeah, desktop sound. No, but my background noise is audible to you. Correct. Background noise. Uh, what is this? No, background noise, nothing. I can play a desktop sound. No, but my background noise is audible to you. Correct. It's background noise. Uh, what is this? Oh, background noise, nothing. I can play a desktop sound. Live chat stream, okay, camera. My background is my background. I mean, my desktop sound. Let me show you that. I'm right now playing a song on my background, in my background, but it's not showing on my desktop though. What the fuck, man? By the way, I'm not in my hometown, so that's why. Active, it's not showing. Fuck this guy. Only monitor output on monitor and output are off. Okay, let me search on YouTube though. Obvious. I'm good. By the way, can you hear my background noise? Like I'm playing a song. So it's not. No, I'm doing BCA in first. I'm in first sem. BCA first sem. OBS. Desktop sound not coming. What the fuck? How to fix audio? Yeah, that's the reason now. That's the point. What is happened? What is happening? My desktop is like mute. Okay, let me show you here. Here you can see. I'm playing a song in my on my background, but it's not showing in here. Desktop sound zero. Why? I mean, yeah, I know. I'm from Odisha. Go live stop. I am live, but okay. Just give me 2 seconds. Just give me 2 minutes. If it will be not working, then I will continue just like this. Go to settings, stream settings. Okay. You can see my face. Settings, audio. Here you can see desktop. Desktop audio. Default non. As default, save as default. Apply. But yeah, here you can see now. Now you can see my background noise. I mean my monitor voice. Now where I am. Here we go. Let's start our stream, by the way. Let's start our stream. So today we are going to learn one more time OOP, object oriented programming in Python. So
yeah, now it's good.
Yeah, now it's good. Yeah, that's what I am trying to do. Yeah, by the way, I'm not in my hometown, so that's why my settings like little bit change.
Which language are you going to use?
I'm going to use Python. By the way, this is day number 14. Are doing Python. So let's go. So today we are going to learn OOP, object oriented programming. So basically, I have two YouTube channels. The first one is Bro Code, and the second one is Cori. So we are going to learn from Cori first. If Cori is not helpful for us, then we will do on Bro Code. We'll learn from Bro Code. This is 720.
Hey everybody, how's it going? In this series of videos, we'll be learning how to create and use classes within Python and how object-oriented concepts are applied within the language. Now, there's a lot to cover when working with classes, so I'm going to break these up into several different videos. We'll cover the basics of creating and instantiating classes. We'll learn about inheritance, class and instance variables, static methods and class methods, and several other topics. So breaking these up in several videos will allow us to focus on specific topics in each video. So in this video, we'll be learning the basics of creating and instantiating simple classes. But first, why should we even use classes? Now, this isn't just specific to Python. You can see classes being used throughout most modern programming languages, and there's a good reason for that. They allow us to logically group our data and functions in a way that's easy to reuse and also easy to build upon if need be. Now, just a quick side note, when I say data and functions that are associated with a specific class, we call those attributes and methods, and you'll hear me use those terms a lot throughout these videos. So when I say methods, I mean a function that is associated with a class. So let's go ahead and get started. So say we had an application for our company, and we wanted to represent our employees in our Python.
By the way,
now this would be a great use case for a class because each individual employee is going to have specific attributes and methods. So for example, each employee is going to have a name, an email address, a pay, and also actions that they can perform. So it'd be nice if we had a class that we could use as a blueprint to create each employee so that we didn't have to do this manually each time from scratch. So let's go ahead and create a simple employee class and see what that would look like. So to create a class, it's just as easy as saying class employee. Now I'm going to leave this empty for now, and if we just left it like this, then we get an error. So if you ever have a class or a function that you want to leave empty for the time being, then you can simply put in a pass statement, and Python will know that you just want to skip that for now. So now we have a simple employee class with no attributes or methods. And I wanted to stop here because I wanted to explain the difference between a class and an instance of a class. So our class...
What is class and instance of the class? Let's first of all enter the class CLUSS class. We're going to enter employees EMPs. Let's just EMP hello employees, and let's pass this for this now.
Class is basically a blueprint for creating instances, and each unique employee that we create using our employee class will be an instance of that class. So for example, if I said employee 1 equals employee and employee 2 equals employee, then each of these are going to be their own unique instances of the employee class. So for example, if I go ahead and print both their employee and employee 2 equals employee, then each of these are going to be their own unique instances of the employee class. So for example, if I go ahead and print both of these out and copy and paste
employee 1 and
you can see that
employee
both
2.
of these are employee objects, and they're both unique. They both have different locations here in memory. Now, this is an important distinction because you'll hear me talk a lot about instance variables and class variables, and it's important to know the difference between those. And I'll go more in depth into class variables in the next video, but for this video, we're going to be looking at instance variables. So instance variables contain data that is unique to each instance. Now, we could manually create instance variables for each employee by doing something like this. So let's say we wanted employee 1 to have a first name.
Okay. So first of all, let's write EMP employee number 1, which is b equal to employee, and employee number 2 will be equal to employee. So let's print both of them. Print employee 1, employee 2, enter. Here you can see there is two different locations of these two employees. Okay.
And a last name. So I could just do employee 1 dot first,
Employee dot first,
Corey, and then I could do
Corey.
employee last is equal to Schaefer. And I could also give it an email address. So I'll do employee 1 dot email equals, and I'll just do the first name with the last name at company.com. And lastly, let's go ahead and add a pay one of there too. So I'll do employee 1 dot pay, and we'll just do 50,000 there. Now let's give employee 2 some of these same attributes. So for this one, I'll just do test user, and then I'll do test user, and I will make that
user
60,000. Okay, so now each of these
60,000,
instances have attributes that are unique to them. So if I print it out, let's say I could print out the employee 1.email, and I'll also print out the employee 2.email. Oh, and it looks like whenever I get
light check. You can light turn on.
gave these the instance variables, I forgot to make this employee 2 here. So now let's run that. So now you can see that that email was created for each employee. But let's say that we wanted to set all of this information for each employee when they're created, rather than doing all of this manually like we did here. So we wouldn't want to have to manually set these variables every time. You can see it's a lot of code, and it's also prone to mistakes, just like I did whenever I forgot to change the to employee 2. So we don't get much benefit of using classes if we did it this way. So to make these set up automatically when we create the employee, we're going to use a special init method. So now inside of our employee class, I'm going to create this special init method. Now you can think of this method as initialize, and if you're coming from another language, then you can think of this as the constructor. Now when we create methods within a class, they receive the instance as the first argument automatically. And by convention, we should call the instance self. Now you can call it whatever you want, but it's a good idea to stick to convention here and just use self. So after self, we can specify what other arguments that we want to accept. So let's go ahead and accept the first name, the last name, and the pay. And I know that we had email too, but we can create the email using the first name and the last name. So now, within our init method, we're going to set all of these instance variables. So let's do self.first equals first.
Okay, let's do first that. Now let's got on our print, and let's got this pass method also. And let's enter def function. def let's place int enter. It will automatically passed. Okay, ठीक है. So first of all, we have to add our what do we want to add that? We want to add our first name, we add our first name, and also last name, and also how much they can pay also. Okay, let's go. Done. Now we have to add self self. Oh, version self self dot our first name first name will be equal to our same first name. That's the first name. Then we have to one more time self dot last will be equal to last where we go self dot what will be p here will be equal to p. Then what?
And now I'm just going to do this for the rest of them as well. So I'm going to do self.pay or self.last and self.pay. And for the email, I can do self.email equals first plus, and then we'll put a dot between those, and then last, and then we'll add on to the end at company.com.
At the rate gmail.com. Okay, yeah. Let's add that also. So what I have to do? Self dot email will be equal to f first plus add a dot plus last name add another plus and at the rate gmail.com at the rate gmail.com. Yep. Here we go.
Okay, so whenever I say that self is the instance, what I mean by that is that when we set self.first equals to first here, it's going to be the same thing as us saying down here that employee1.first equals Corey. Except now, instead of doing this manually, it'll be done automatically when we create our employee objects. Now, these don't need to be the same as our arguments. So for example, I could make this self.fname equals first, but I usually like to keep these similar if possible, so I'm going to go ahead and set that back to self.first equals first. Okay, so now when we create our instances of our employee class right here, now we can pass in the values that we specified in our init method. Now our init method takes the instance, which we called self, and the first name, last name, and pay as arguments. But when we create our employee down here, the instance is passed automatically, so we can leave off the self. We only need to provide the names and the pay. So we could create these by passing in first, and we have to do this in order. So I will pass in all of the same information that we did manually down there. And for the second one, I'll do test and user, and I think I had that at 60,000.
Okay. Let's add our names, by the way. It's a Morse, and last name will be Rookie. And the budget will be 77,000. 77,000. The second name will be $88,000. Yep. Then we have to one. Just print. Okay, but Let's print this thing. What employee, main employee, and at the object variable class this.
Okay, so what would happen on this line when we create this employee? The init method will be run automatically. So employee 1 will be passed in as self, and then it will set all of these attributes. So it'll set employee 1.first is equal to first, which will be passed in as Corey. Employee 1.last equals will be passed in as last, and so on. So now that we have that init method in place, we can go ahead and delete these manual assignments that we made down here. And you can see by deleting that we got rid of a lot of code. So I'm going to go ahead and comment out those lines where we're printing the employee.
marsruki@gmail.com. marsruki@.
Employees, and I'm just going to go ahead and print out the email. So if I run that, then you can see that still works. Okay, so everything that we have so far, like the names and email and the pay, are all attributes of our class. Now let's say that we wanted the ability to perform some kind of action. Now to do that, we can add some methods to our class. So let's say that I wanted the ability to display the full name of an employee. Now this is an action that you'd likely need to do a lot with a class like this. So we can do this manually outside the class. If I was to come down here and do print, and I can get the full name just by putting in 2 placeholders there and doing a format and saying employee 1.first and employee 1. We can add some methods to our class. So let's say that I wanted the ability to display the full name of an employee. Now this is an action that you'd likely need to do a lot with a class like this. So we can do this manually outside the class. If I was to come down here and do print, and I can get the full name just by putting in 2 placeholders there and doing a format and saying employee 1.first and employee 1.last. And if I go ahead and print this out, then you can see that we got the full name there. But that's a lot. To type in each time that you want to display the employee's full name. So instead, let's create a method within our class that allows us to put this functionality in one place. So within our class here, I'm going to create a method called full name. We can do that with just doing a def of full name. Now, like I said before, each method within a class automatically takes the instance as the first argument, and we're going to always call that self. And the instance is the only argument that we'll need in order to get the full name. So within this method here, I'm just going to take the same logic that we had down here and cut that out, and I'm just going to go ahead and return that. But we have to be careful here because now instead of printing employee 1 first name and last name, I'm going to use self so that it will work with all instances. So I'm going to do self.first and self.
Okay, let's make a different function. Okay. Def full name. 7. Let's return. This place. So another disturb for place.
Audio Factory.
Oh, damn.
OLP. Damn.
OLP. Damn. So why
Audio
though?
Factory. Class is on.
Yup. Class is on, man. By the way, which language you are like learning, by the way? Sorry. First name. Last name. last name. So the first name and the last name.
Audio Factory. Language of love.
What? Language of love, though.
At last. So now
Nice
that we created that
language.
method, instead of printing like we did before, now I can just come down here and do employee1.full name and print that out. And if I run that, then you can see that we got the same thing.
Okay. Let's print that also. Let's comment out this. Print. This is one dot full name. Print. There's error. Invalid found space rookie of object type. The rookie. Invalid error. Invalid format expected rookie from our object. Same as here. Our object type str. Full name plus last name. It should work though. What is wrong? Can someone tell me? What is wrong with the code? It's saying that invalid format rookie for object of type str string, but it is a strings. Class employee def function integer refresh first name last name and then payment how much that left. Self first name last name first email is okay then. Let's cut this thing. Now let's. Yeah, it's working. Now it's print more quickly.
And notice that we need
Last time, yeah. I said that also.
Daily Stoicism. Your age?
I'm 18 year old and I'm doing BCA on MET. You're done. Now let's print. It will show an error. I don't know why it's showing an error when I will write a format though. Okay, I will do something about it later.
Daily
parentheses here
Stoicism.
because this is
Nice, keep going.
Thank you. By the way, like, comment, subscribe, all things I do.
a method instead of an attribute. So if I left the parentheses off and printed this, then you can see that it prints the method instead of the return value of the method. So we're going to have to put those parentheses on in order to run that properly. So now we have full advantage of code reuse here. So instead of typing this out for each full name that I want to print, now I can just use that method. So now, if I wanted to print employee 2's full name, it's just as easy as replacing employee 1 with employee 2 and running that, and we get the correct answer.
Daily
Okay, and one more quick thing that I wanted.
You can pick Angela U course on Python. It's good for beginners.
Okay, you can pick Angela U course. Okay, let's check that course. Angela. A-N-Z-L-E. Angela. This is 100 day of coding, learning Python, learning Python. Okay. I will check it out after the stream.
Now, one common mistake that I see when creating methods is forgetting the self argument for the instance. So let's take a quick look at what that would look like if we left that off. So now, before I run this, if I just commented out this printing of full name down here and ran this, and you can see I'm actually going to remove these print statements here as well. Now you can see that this runs without any errors. But if I was to try to run this method that we accidentally left self off of, then run this, then you can see that we get an error. And the error that we got was a type error. Full name takes 0 positional arguments, but 1 was given. Now this can be confusing because it doesn't look like we're passing any arguments here into full name, but the instance, which in this case is employee 2, is getting passed automatically. So we have to expect that instance argument in our method, and that's why we added self. So I'm going to come back up here to full name and put self back in, and now running this, you can see that it runs correctly. Now we can also run these methods using the class name itself, which makes it a bit more obvious of what's going on in the background, because whenever we do that, so I'll do employee dot full name. Now when we run it from the class, we have to manually pass in the instance as an argument. So in this case, I'll pass in employee 1. So you can see how these are similar but not exactly the same. So I'm going to put these side by side just so that we can compare. So these 2 lines here do the exact same thing. But here, when I do employee 1, which is an instance, and I call the method, I don't need to pass in self. It does it automatically. And when we call the method on the class, then it doesn't know what instance that we want to run that method with. So we do have to pass in the instance, and that gets passed in as self. And if I go ahead and print this out and run it, then you can see that it works, just like if we were to print out the employee 1.full name. And I wanted to show you that because that's actually what's going on in the background when we run employee 1.full name. It gets transformed into this here, employee.full name, and passes in employee 1 as self. And that's why we have self for these methods. So I hope that makes sense to you. That's not extremely important to know when we're just getting started with working with classes, but we need to understand that in later videos once we start inheriting from other classes and things like that. So I figured it would be a good thing to go ahead and show you that now. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for this video. In this video, we learned how to create simple classes, the difference between a class and an instance of that class, and we also learned how to initialize class attributes and create methods. Now, we still have a lot to cover in future videos, and we'll be going over more advanced topics. So in the next video, we'll learn about class variables and how they differ from instance variables that we saw here. But if you do have any questions with what we covered in this video, then feel free to ask in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer those. If you enjoy these tutorials and would like to support them, why don't you subscribe for future videos, and thank you. Hey there, how's it going everybody? In the last video, we learned how to create a simple class and how to create instances of that class. We learned a lot about instance variables, which are used for data that is unique to each instance. So instance variables are these here that are set using the self argument that we saw before. So for example, in the employee class that we created, we set the names, the email, and the pay in our init method. And those are set for each instance of the employee that we create. And I briefly mentioned class variables in the last video, but we didn't go into detail. And that's what we're going to learn about in this video. So class variables are variables that are shared among all instances of a class. So while instance variables can be unique for each instance, like our names and email and pay, class variables should be the same for each instance. So if we look here at our employee class, what kind of data would we want to be shared among all employees? Well, there's a lot of different ideas that we could probably come up with, but for this example, let's say that our company gives annual raises every year. Now, the amount can change from year to year, but whatever that amount is, it's going to be the same for all employees. So that would be a good candidate for a class variable. Now, before we actually create that class variable, let's first hard code this in and see why the class variables would be a better use case. So I'm going to create a method down here. Called apply raise. And remember, our methods automatically take in the instance, which we are going to call self. Now, within this apply raise, I'm going to do a self.pay, and I'm going to set this equal to an integer so that we have a whole number. And I'm going to do self.pay times 1 point, let's just make this 4%. So now if I was to test this down here on an instance, then I can print out the employee1.pay, and let me go ahead and copy this twice. And between here, I'm going to do an employee1.apply raise. Now, if I go ahead and run this, oh, and I actually forgot to put in the parentheses there. So now if I go ahead and run this, you can see that I printed out the pay, then we applied the raise, and it added 4% onto our pay. So we can see that it worked, but there are a couple of things wrong here. So first, it would be nice if we could access the raise amount by doing something like employee1.raise amount. Or since it would apply to the entire class, we should also be able to get the raise amount by doing employee.raise amount. Now that raise amount attribute doesn't currently exist, so we can't see that it is 4%. And also, what if I wanted to easily update that 4% amount? So right now, it's kind of hidden within this method. And for all I know, it could be in multiple places throughout our code. So we don't want to have to manually go in if we wanted to update this 4%. We wouldn't want to have to manually go in and change these in multiple locations. So let's instead pull this 4% out into a class variable. And that's as easy as going up here to the top of the class and just saying that we want a raise amount equal to 1 point, and we'll just do that at 4% still.
Let's do 4%. And another def function. The function will be right now. Apply for C. Self dot pay will be equal to, it will be integer value, so it adds in, then we have parenthesis and self dot pay, and we want to increase this at 4%. 1.4%. 1.02 employee 1 dot apply reverse. Maybe I can empty object.
So now instead of hard coding this 4% down here in our apply raise method, now let's go ahead and use this class variable. Now you might expect us to just be sent down here and finish out our amount and the raise amount by doing amount access to our pay. So we can see that it worked, but there are a couple of things wrong here. So first, it would be not nice if we could access the raise amount by doing something like employee1.raise amount. Or since it would apply to the entire class, we should also be able to get the raise amount by doing employee.raiseAmount. Now that raise amount attribute doesn't currently exist, so we can't see that it is 4%. And also, what if I wanted to easily update that 4% amount? So right now, it's kind of hidden within this method. And for all I know, it could be in multiple places throughout our code. So we don't want to have to manually go in if we wanted to update this 4%. We wouldn't want to have to manually go in and change these in multiple locations. So let's instead pull this 4% out into a class variable. And that's as easy as going up here to the top of the class and just saying that we want a raise amount equal to 1 point, and just do that at 4% still. So now instead of hard coding this 4% down here in our apply raise method.
Okay. Raise amount. Raise amount over 1.8. What is wrong?
Now let's go ahead and use this class variable. Now you might expect us to just be able to type in raise amount here, but if I save that, and I'm going to comment out these lines here. So if I save that and run it, you can see that I got a name error, and it says that raise amount is not defined. And that's because when we access these class variables, we need to either access them through the class itself or an instance of the class. So within the apply raise, I could either say employee.raiseAmount, and if I save that and run it, then you can.
Okay, that's the reason it's not happening though. Open by employed term raise amount.
See that works. Or I can also access through the instance, so I can do self.raiseAmount, and if I run that, then you can.
Self.raiseAmount.
See that that works as well. Now that might be a little confusing to you because if these are class variables, then why can we access them from our instance? So let me print out a few lines here to get a better idea of what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all of these lines here. Actually, I'm going to keep this, and I'm going to print out the employee1.raiseAmount, and I'm also going to print the employee.raiseAmount. And also, just to see all of our instances here, I'm going to also do the employee2.raiseAmount so that we can see all of them together. So now, if I go ahead and print these out, you can see that I can access this class variable from both my class itself as well as from both instances. Now, what's going on here is that when we try to access an attribute on an instance, it will first check if the instance contains that attribute. And if it doesn't, then it will see if the class or any class that it inherits from contains that attribute. So when we access raiseAmount from our instances here, they don't actually have that attribute themselves. They're accessing the class's raiseAmount attribute. Now, there's a little trick that we can do here to get a better idea of what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and print out the namespace of employee1. And we can do that by printing out employee1:_dict. So now if I run this, if I were to access these names or email or pay, then these are the values that they would return. But you can see that there's no...
Yeah.
No, they're accessing the class's raiseAmount attribute.
And for the original amount, $1.8. Yeah, that's right.
Now there's a little trick that we can do here to get a better idea of what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and print out the namespace of employee1. And we can do that by printing out employee1:_dict. So now if I run this,
First one, March, last one.
if I were to access these names or email or pay, then these are the values that they would return. But you can see that there's no raiseAmount here in this list. Now, if I printed out the employee.dict and run that, now we're going to get a few things here that we don't necessarily care about. But if we look down here, then we can see that the class does get a few things here that we don't necessarily. Now, if I printed out the employee,
yeah, SS just training SS function in limited apply to access video direct web program.
employee.dict and run that. Now we're going to get a few things here that we don't necessarily care about, but if we look down here, then we can see that the class does contain this raiseAmount attribute, and that is the value that our instances see when we access that raiseAmount attribute from our instances. Now let me show you an important concept here. So I'm going to go ahead and comment this out, and I'm going to take this employee raiseAmount, and I'm going to set this equal to 1.05. And now I'm going to uncomment out our print statements here and rerun this code. And you can see that it changed the raiseAmount for the class and all of the instances. Now, what if I was to set set the raise amount, you change this employee raise amount, and I'm going to set this equal to 1.05. And now I'm going to uncomment out our print statements here and rerun this code. And you can see that it changed the raise amount for the class and all of the instances. Now, what if I was to set the raise amount using an instance instead of using the class? So instead of doing employee.raiseAmount equals 5%, I'm going to say employee1.raiseAmount equals 5%. So if I run this now this might be a little unexpected. You can see that it only changed the raise amount for employee 1. It's the only one that has this 5%. So why did it do that? Well, when we made this assignment, it actually created the raise amount attribute within employee 1. So if I go back up here and print back out employee 1's namespace, and I'm going to do this under the assignment. So now if I run that, now you can see that employee 1 has raise amount within its namespace equal to 5%. And it finds this within its own namespace and returns that value before going and searching the class. And we didn't set that raise amount on employee 2, so that still falls back to the class's value. Now that's an important concept to understand, because up here in our apply raise method, we can see that we could get different results depending on whether we did the self, which is the instance raise amount, or the employee class raise amount. So in this case, I think I'm going to go ahead and leave this as self.raiseAmount, because that will give us the ability to change that amount for a single instance if we really wanted to. So if I wanted to change employee 1's raise amount, then I could go ahead and do that. And when I did apply raise, then it would use the employee 1's raise amount instead of the class's raise amount. And also using self here will allow any subclass to override that constant if they wanted to. And we'll look at subclassing in a future video. So now let's look at another example of a class variable where it wouldn't really make sense to use self. So let's say that we wanted to keep track of how many employees that we have. So the number of employees should be the same for all instances of our class. So if I created a class variable up here, I'm just going to go ahead and call this num of employees is equal to 0 for now. And each time we create a new employee, I'm going to increment that by 1. And I can do that within the init method, since the init method runs every time we create a new employee. So within here, I'm going to do employee.number of employees plus equals 1. Now I'm definitely going to use employee.number of employees here instead of self.number of employees, because with raises, it's nice to have that constant class value that can be overridden per instance if we really need it to be. But in this case, there's no use case I can think of where we would want our total number of employees to be different for any one instance. So for now, I'm going to go down here to the bottom and go ahead and delete all of this. And I'm going to print out employee.number of employees. So now if I go ahead and run that, you can see that it returned 2 because it was incremented twice when we instantiated both of our employees here. If I was to put this print statement above where we instantiated those employees, then you can see that it was 0 and we created 2 employees.
You can send me your LinkedIn on my Insta though. Share your LinkedIn on my Insta so I can contact with you.
And then it printed out too. Okay, so I think that is going to do it for this video. Now I know that was a lot to take in, but hopefully now...
Yeah, it is a lot to take in, bhai. Okay, let's see first.
You better understand the difference. Call this num of employees is equal to 0 for now. And each time we create a new employee, I'm going to increment that by 1. And I can do that within the init method, since the init method runs every time we create a new employee. So within here, I'm going to do employee.number of employees plus equals 1. Now I'm definitely going to use employee.number of employees here instead of self.number of employees, because with raises, it's nice to have that
Music ka volume cardo.
म्यूजिक का वॉल्यूम कम कर दूं क्या? कम कर दूं या फिर ज्यादा कर दूं वॉल्यूम को? I think this is like good.
Constant class value that can be overridden per instance if we really need it to be, but in this case, there's no use case I can think of where we would want our total number of employees to be different for any one instance. So for now, I'm going to go down here to the bottom and go ahead and delete all of this. And I'm going to print out employee.number of employees. So now if I go ahead and run that, you can see that it returned 2 because it was incremented twice when we instantiated both of our employees here. If I was to put this print statement above where we instantiated those employees, then you can see that it was 0 and we created 2 employees and then it printed out 2. Okay, so I think that is going to do it for this.
Let's add some employee numbers also. let's say num of employees NPS is equal to 0. Next one, num of the employee is equal to 1. Employee dot num of employees. So 0.
Video. Now I know that was a lot to take in, but hopefully now you better understand the difference between instance variables and class variables and when you would use each one. So one of the obvious next questions is, well, if we have class variables, then are there also class methods? And the answer is yes. There are these things called static methods and also class methods, and we'll look at the difference between those in the next video. If you do have any questions about what we covered here, then feel free to ask in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer those. Hey everybody, how's it going? In our last video, we looked at the difference between instance variables and class variables. And in this video, we'll be learning about the difference between regular methods, class methods, and static methods. And a lot of people get confused as to the difference between class methods and static methods, so we'll definitely go over that in detail. So as we learned in our previous videos, regular methods in a class automatically take the instance as the first argument. And by convention, we were calling this self. So if a regular method automatically takes in the instance as the first argument, then how can change this so that it instead automatically takes the class as the first argument? Now to do that, we're going to use class methods. And to turn a regular method into a class method, it's as easy as adding a decorator to the top called class method. So let's go ahead and create one of these. So I'm going to create a new method here with that class method decorator. And I'm just
okay, we're going to learn class method decorator. This person will copy this.
set raise amount. Now for this set raise amount method, I'm going to take in the class and I'm going to take in an amount. And for now, we'll just put in a pass statement there. Now, if you'd like to learn more about how decorators work, then you can watch my video that goes into that in depth. But basically, this is altering the functionality of our method to where now we receive the class as our first argument instead of the instance. Now, by convention, with a regular method, we called this instance variable self. And there's a common convention for class variables too, and that is CLS. Now, we can't use the word class as the variable name here because the word has a different meaning within the language. You can see here up at the top that we use the word class to create a new class. So that is a keyword in Python. So instead, we're going to use CLS as our class variable name. So now within this set raise amount method, we are working with the class instead of at the top and now for this a new method as adding a decorator to the top called class method. So let's go ahead and create one of these. So I'm going to create a new method here with that class method decorator, and I'm just going to call this set raise amount. Now for this set raise amount method, I'm going to take in the class, and I'm going to take in regular automatic. So we'll definitely go over that in detail. So as we learned in our previous videos, regular methods in a class automatically take the instance as the first argument, and by convention, we were calling this self. So if a regular method automatically takes in the instance as the first argument, then how can we change this so that it instead automatically takes the class as the first argument? Now to do that, we're going to use class methods. And to turn a regular method into a class method, it's as easy as adding a decorator to the top called class method. So let's go ahead and create one of these. So I'm going to create a new method here with that class method decorator, and I'm just going to call this set raise amount. Now for this set raise amount method, I'm going to take in the class and I'm going to take in an amount. And for now, we'll just put in a pass statement there. Now if you'd like to learn more about how decorators work, then you can watch my video that goes into that in.
Okay, we have to watch another video how decorator works, because I don't know how decorator works though. Okay, first of all, add class. Okay, class method. And add the def function. This will be stack amount and the class and found.
But basically, this is altering the functionality of our method to where now we receive the class as our first argument instead of the instance. Now by convention, with a regular method, we called this instance variable self. And there's a common convention for class variables too, and that is CLS. Now we can't use the word class as the variable name here, because the word has a different meaning within the language. You can see here up at the top that we use the word class to create a new class. So that is a keyword in Python. So instead we're going to use CLS as our class variable name. So now within this set raise amount method, we are working with the class instead of the instance. And to show you what I mean by this, let's go ahead and set our class variable raise amount. So we'll say class dot raise amount, and we'll just set this equal to the amount argument that we are accepting from this method. So now down here at the bottom, I still have these two employee instances that I created in our previous tutorials. And here I'm printing out
CLS last one registering amount equal to amount.
The classes raise amount as well as both instances raise amount. So if I go ahead and run this, then you can see that all of those are equal to 4%. Now the reason all those are equal to 4% again is because we have this class variable here, raise amount, that is set to 4%. So now let's say that we wanted to change this to 5%. So before I print these out, then I could just use that set raise amount method that we just created, and I could do employee.
I think this for the advanced level Python code of object-oriented programming, because I'm in my basic functions. I don't want to learn this class methods and all those things. I think this is not for beginners.
Set raise amount, and it automatically accepts the class, so we don't have to pass that in. So now we can just pass in an amount. So I'm going to go ahead and do 5%. And if I save that and run it, then you can see that now all of these are equal to 5%. Now the reason all those are equal to 5% is because we ran this set raise amount method, which is a class method, which means that now we are working with the class instead of the instance, and we're setting that class variable raise amount equal to the amount that we passed in here, which is 5%. So really, us running this set raise amount method here and setting this CLS variable raise amount to the amount, we are using this, and I can run that changes that class variable. Now you may know that we had someone who was using our employee class, and they said, hey, I have these specific use cases where I'm getting employee information in the form of a string that is separated by hyphens, and I'm constantly needing to parse the string before I create new employees. So is there a way to just pass in a string and create an employee from that? So let's go ahead. I have an example down here using our class. We have really what this problem would look like. So let's say that this is a common use case.
Okay. I learned enough like object-oriented programming, like a basic intermediate level. Completed 1020 course. Where is my index?
Times 3, and this will print my name 3 times. Bro.
जिनके बारे में अभी हमने बात की, जैसे इनहेरिटेंस हो गया, जैसे पॉलीमॉर्फिज्म हो गया। इनफैक्ट कैसे हम प्राइवेट एट्रीब्यूट क्रिएट कर सकते हैं, कैसे प्राइवेट मेथड क्रिएट कर सकते हैं, डिलीट कैसे करते हैं किसी एट्रीब्यूट को। ये छोटी-छोटी इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें हैं जिन्हें हम कवर करेंगे अपने पार्ट 2 के अंदर। तो ऊप्स चैप्टर में नेक्स्ट कॉन्सेप्ट जैसे हम
Yep. In our last class, we complete this.
पढ़ने वाले हैं। दिस इज द डेल कीवर्ड। डेल कीवर्ड का काम होता है टू
Del
डिलीट
keyword.
ऑब्जेक्ट प्रॉपर्टीज या द एंटायर ऑब्जेक्ट इटसेल्फ। कोई भी ऑब्जेक्ट अगर हम क्रिएट करते हैं कोड के अंदर, तो वो क्या करती है, वो मेमोरी के अंदर कुछ स्पेस ऑक्यूपाई करती है, क्योंकि ऑब्जेक्ट से रिलेटेड कुछ मेथड्स होते हैं क्रिएट करती है जिसको बाद में हमें कभी यूज नहीं करना। तो हम इंडिविजुअली इसकी प्रॉपर्टीज को भी डिलीट कर सकते हैं और उस ऑब्जेक्ट को भी डिलीट कर सकते हैं। डिलीट करने के लिए हमें सिंपली del ये कीवर्ड लिखना पड़ेगा एंड उसके बाद इस तरीके से हम प्रॉपर्टीज को डिलीट कर सकते हैं, एट्रीब्यूट्स को, एंड इस तरीके से हम अपनी कंप्लीट ऑब्जेक्ट को भी डिलीट कर सकते हैं। लेट्स ट्राई टू क्रिएट अ स्टूडेंट ऑब्जेक्ट। अगर हमने स्टूडेंट क्लास क्रिएट की, इसके अंदर लेट्स क्रिएट आवर कंस्ट्रक्टर इन इट। इसके अंदर हमारे पास एक नेम आ जाएगा एंड सेल्फ डॉट नेम इज इक्वल टू नेम।
Okay.
एंड अब हमें क्या करना है, एक स्टूडेंट 1 हम क्रिएट करते हैं जिसके अंदर नेम में आई कैन पास श्रद्धा, एंड इफ आई वांट टू डिलीट द स्टूडेंट आई कैन सिंपली राइट del s1, एंड उसके बाद अगर हम स्टूडेंट को प्रिंट करवाने की कोशिश करेंगे तो उस केस में हमारे पास एरर आ जाएगा। लेट्स सेव इट एंड रन। तो इस केस में हमारे पास एरर आ गया क्योंकि नेम s1 इज नॉट डिफाइंड। क्यों? क्योंकि वो यहाँ पर डिलीट हो गया, जबकि यही सेम
Okay, then we can delete also. Let's make a class. Create a class of student. But something self dot name
Fidam. Your age?
your age. I'm 18 years old, by the way. Recently turned 18. Let's take student 1 is equal to student mouse.
चीज अगर हम यहाँ पर प्रिंट करवा रहे होते तो कोई एरर नहीं आता। तो उस केस में नॉर्मली वो यहाँ पर एरर आता है। लेट्स सेव इट एंड रन। तो इस केस में हमारे पास
Let's delete del s1, then come to print s1. The name error s1 is not defined.
एरर आ गया क्योंकि नेम s1 इज नॉट डिफाइंड। क्यों? क्योंकि वो यहाँ पर डिलीट हो गया, जबकि यही सेम चीज अगर हम यहाँ पर प्रिंट करवा रहे होते तो कोई एरर नहीं। तो उस केस में नॉर्मली हमारे लिए जो ऑलरेडी प्रिंट होता है वो चीज प्रिंट होता है। अगर हम यहाँ पर s डॉट नेम प्रिंट करवा रहे हैं और फिर बाद में अगर हम इस डॉट नेम को डिलीट कर देते हैं और फिर उसे प्रिंट करवाने की कोशिश करते हैं, तो पहले तो हमारे लिए नॉर्मली प्रिंट हो जाएगा, पर उसके बाद क्योंकि हमने डिलीट कर दिया उस चीज को, तो यहाँ दिखा रहा है स्टूडेंट ऑब्जेक्ट हैज नो इस तरीके से हम अपने DEF
ओके so that means there are code words will not
एंड
found.
डिलीट कीवर्ड को यूज कर सकते हैं। नेक्स्ट हम बात करने वाले हैं प्राइवेट एट्रीब्यूट्स एंड मेथड्स के बारे में। जनरली जब भी हम ऊप्स पढ़ते हैं, जैसे दूसरी अगर किसी लैंग्वेज के अंदर जब भी हम ऊप्स पढ़ते हैं C++ के अंदर, जावा के अंदर, तो वी हैव दिस कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ पब्लिक एंड प्राइवेट। जनरली दूसरी जो लैंग्वेजेस होती हैं उनके अंदर अगर किसी एट्रीब्यूट को या किसी मेथड को हमने पब्लिक कर दिया तो उसका मतलब होता है जनरली कि हम उस मेथड या उस एट्रीब्यूट को क्लास के बाहर भी एक्सेस कर सकते हैं। जैसे अभी तक अगर मैंने एक स्टूडेंट बनाया है तो स्टूडेंट में मैं लिख सकती हूँ s1.name। मैं क्या कर रही हूँ, अपनी क्लास के स्कोप से, यानी ये क्लास का स्कोप है जहाँ जहाँ क्लास के अंदर वाली चीजें हैं, क्लास के बाहर मैं स्टूडेंट के नेम को एक्सेस कर सकती हूँ। तो इसे हम जनरली पब्लिक की कैटेगरी में डालते हैं। पर कई बार हमारी कुछ ऐसी सेंसिटिव इन्फॉर्मेशन होती है, कुछ ऐसे सेंसिटिव एट्रीब्यूट होता है, कुछ ऐसा मेथड होता है जिसको हम प्राइवेट रखना चाहते हैं, जिसको हम अपनी क्लास से बाहर किसी को एक्सेस नहीं देना चाहते। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ आई क्रिएट अ क्लास कॉल्ड अकाउंट, बैंक अकाउंट के लिए या अकाउंट के लिए कोई क्लास क्रिएट कर रहे हैं और इस अकाउंट के लिए हम मल्टीपल इन्फॉर्मेशन स्टोर करते हैं। जैसे यहाँ इनिट में हमारे पास सेल्फ है, वी हैव द अकाउंट नंबर, उसके साथ हमारे पास अकाउंट का पासवर्ड भी है। तो अकाउंट नंबर एंड पासवर्ड दो इन्फॉर्मेशन है हमारे पास। सेल्फ डॉट अकाउंट नंबर इज इक्वल टू अकाउंट नंबर एंड सेल्फ डॉट अकाउंट पासवर्ड इज इक्वल टू अकाउंट पासवर्ड। इस तरीके से हमने कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन डिस्प्ले कर दी। अब लेट्स सपोज कल को कोई नया यूजर आता है और वो अकाउंट क्रिएट करने की कोशिश करता है, तो अकाउंट के अंदर मल्टीपल इन्फॉर्मेशन पास कर सकते हैं। लेट्स सपोज शुरुआत में जब किसी यूजर का अकाउंट क्रिएट होता है तो उसके लिए अकाउंट नंबर जा रहा है 1 2 3 4 5 एंड उनका पासवर्ड जा रहा है ABCD। इस तरीके से ये अकाउंट नंबर हो गया एंड ये पासवर्ड हो गया। अब कोई भी चाहे कि हम प्रिंट करवाना चाहते हैं अकाउंट 1 डॉट अकाउंट नंबर। अब वैसे तो यहाँ पर कोड में चीजें विजिबल है, बट जनरली फ्लो कैसे काम करता है, जनरली अगर आप किसी वेबसाइट पर जाएंगे, वहां से कोई यूजर है वो अपना अकाउंट नंबर या फिर अपना पासवर्ड जो है वो सेट करेंगे, उसको एंटर करेंगे एंड उसके बाद बैकएंड के अंदर हो सकता है पाइथन कोड के थ्रू भी हम इस तरीके से जो भी इन्फॉर्मेशन हमारे पास आएगी उसको डायरेक्टली यहाँ पर क्लास के अंदर सेव करवा दें। अब जब हम प्रिंट करवा रहे हैं अकाउंट नंबर को, तो क्या होगा, हमारे लिए अकाउंट नंबर भी प्रिंट हो जाएगा और हमारे लिए यहाँ पे अकाउंट पासवर्ड भी प्रिंट हो जाएगा। When I try to print these things, both of them will be printed for you. But generally this is bad practice, क्योंकि अकाउंट पासवर्ड ऐसी चीज है जो शायद इस कोड के अंदर हमें इस अकाउंट क्लास के बाहर नहीं पास करना चाहिए, क्योंकि जो भी चीज पब्लिकली अवेलेबल होती है उसके अंदर गलती से चेंजेस होने के चांसेस बढ़ जाते हैं, उसके अंदर सिक्योरिटी डिक्रीज हो जाती है। तो इसीलिए जब भी हम कोड के अंदर ऑब्जेक्ट्स एंड क्लासेस में कुछ ऐसी इंप्लीमेंटेशन करते हैं जिसमें हमें लगता है कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन सेंसिटिव है या इस इन्फॉर्मेशन को हम बाहर अपनी क्लास से बाहर नहीं पास करना चाहते, तो उसे हम एक तरीके से प्राइवेट बना सकते हैं। यानी अब उस इन्फॉर्मेशन को क्लास के बाहर एक्सेस कर पाना पॉसिबल नहीं होगा। और किसी भी एट्रीब्यूट को प्राइवेट बनाने के लिए हम सिंपली क्या करते हैं, उसके आगे 2 अंडरस्कोर लगा देते हैं। हमने क्या किया, ये 2 अंडरस्कोर लगा दिए एंड ये चीज अब प्राइवेट हो गई। तो यहाँ पर इफ आई ट्राई टू एक्सेस दिस थिंग, यानी अकाउंट 1 डॉट अंडरस्कोर अंडरस्कोर अकाउंट पासवर्ड को जब हम अब एक्सेस करने की कोशिश करेंगे और इसे रन करेंगे, तो इस केस में अब हमारे पास एरर आ जाएगा, अकाउंट ऑब्जेक्ट हैज नो एट्रीब्यूट अकाउंट पासवर्ड। तो बेसिकली ये चीज अब प्राइवेट हो गई, इसे हम क्लास के बाहर एक्सेस नहीं कर सकते। लेट्स सपोज कोई हमारे पास एक फंक्शन है रीसेट पासवर्ड का, ये सारी इमेजिनरी चीजें चल रही हैं, हमारे पास कोई फंक्शन है जो रीसेट कर देता है पासवर्ड को एंड उस फंक्शन के अंदर हम लेट्स सपोज प्रिंट करवाना चाहते हैं अकाउंट 1 डॉट पासवर्ड या दिस विल बी सेल्फ डॉट अकाउंट पासवर्ड। तो
account creating a class name account and adding def and init function, then it will be add account number and account password. Then adding one more def function which is a reset password self print self account password, then taking the account name which is account and adding the password and your code and printing those 2 things.
ये चीज करवाना बिल्कुल पॉसिबल है। यानी यहाँ पे तो सेल्फ डॉट पासवर्ड चल जाएगा, पर यहाँ पे अकाउंट 1 डॉट पासवर्ड नहीं चलेगा, क्योंकि ये फंक्शन कहाँ पे, ये फंक्शन क्लास के अंदर है और ये वाली जो प्रिंट स्टेटमेंट है ये क्लास के बाहर है। तो क्लास के बाहर हम उसे एक्सेस नहीं कर पाएंगे, पर क्लास के अंदर लाइक इफ आई ट्राई टू कॉल रीसेट पासवर्ड, तो इस बार हमारे पास कोई एरर नहीं आएगा, इस बार सिंपली हमारे लिए हमारा पासवर्ड प्रिंट हो जाएगा। तो अगर कोई ऐसी चीज है जिसे हम सिर्फ क्लास के अंदर रखना चाहते हैं तो उसे हम प्राइवेट बना सकते हैं। अब ये जो प्राइवेट एंड पब्लिक का कॉन्सेप्ट है, ये जैसे दूसरी लैंग्वेजेस के अंदर वर्क अंदर रखना चाहते हैं तो उसे हम प्राइवेट बना सकते हैं।
Let's create a class. See. Transform. CC. Password. This is another default function and reset password. Self-doubt. Account password. X divided by print account. Account number. Account one. Without a reset password. Account password is 7811, being the method rejected in the main account object of exception.
अब ये जो प्राइवेट एंड पब्लिक का कॉन्सेप्ट है, ये जैसे दूसरी लैंग्वेजेस सिर्फ क्लास के अंदर, यहाँ पे तो सेल्फ डॉट पासवर्ड चल जाएगा, पर यहाँ पे अकाउंट वन डॉट पासवर्ड नहीं चलेगा, क्योंकि ये फंक्शन कहाँ पे, ये फंक्शन क्लास के अंदर है, और ये वाली जो प्रिंट स्टेटमेंट है ये क्लास के बाहर है। तो क्लास के बाहर हम उसे एक्सेस नहीं कर पाएंगे, पर क्लास के अंदर लाइक इफ आई ट्राई टू कॉल रीसेट पासवर्ड, तो इस बार हमारे पास कोई एरर नहीं आएगा। लाइक स्टेटमेंट है ये क्लास के बाहर है, तो क्लास के बाहर हम उसे एक्सेस नहीं कर पाएंगे, पर क्लास के अंदर लाइक इफ आई ट्राई टू कॉल रीसेट पासवर्ड, तो इस बार हमारे पास कोई एरर नहीं आएगा। इस बार सिंपली हमारे लिए हमारा पासवर्ड प्रिंट हो जाएगा। तो अगर कोई ऐसी चीज है जिसे हम सिर्फ क्लास के अंदर रखना चाहते हैं तो उसे हम प्राइवेट बना सकते हैं। अब ये जो प्राइवेट एंड पब्लिक का कॉन्सेप्ट है, ये जैसे दूसरी लैंग्वेजेस के अंदर वर्क करता है, जावा होगी, सी++ होगी, अगर आपको उन लैंग्वेजेस के अंदर बैकग्राउंड है, तो एक्जैक्टली वैसे वर्क नहीं करता ऊट्स पाइथन के अंदर। बेसिकली पाइथन के अंदर कंसेप्चुअली हम पब्लिक एंड प्राइवेट को इंप्लीमेंट करते हैं, यानी हमारे एट्रीब्यूट्स एंड मेथड्स को हम प्राइवेट तो बना सकते हैं, पर वो प्राइवेट जैसे होंगे, एक्जैक्टली प्राइवेट होंगे। और इसके हम इतने ज्यादा इंप्लीमेंटेशन डिटेल में नहीं जाएंगे। अगर कोई कभी पूछता है कि प्राइवेट में किस तरीके से हम चीजों को हाइड कर सकते हैं, तो उसको हाइड करने का तरीका बेसिकली होगा कि एट्रीब्यूट्स के सामने भी हम अंडरस्कोर लगा दें और मेथड्स के सामने भी हम अंडरस्कोर लगा दें। फॉर एग्जांपल लेट्स क्रिएट अनदर क्लास। एक नॉर्मल सी हम क्लास क्रिएट करते हैं। लेट्स सपोज दिस इज अ क्लास कॉल्ड पर्सन। पर्सन क्लास के अंदर हम एक एट्रीब्यूट बनाते हैं नेम, जिसके अंदर हम स्टोर करा रहे हैं
but I'm not getting it right. I think I should do few questions of this, then I will get this. Otherwise, I'm not getting any question. Def function integer we add this, then we add account number and account password. There no. I'm ending the stream. So let's end the stream. Let's end the stream. By the way, I'm so sleepy right now. So yeah, this was the today's stream. I hope you guys like the stream. So like.